Hi, joining me today is Syrian girl or Maram Susli or Mimi Alaham. How you doing this evening?
Hi, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I have not seen you while on Facebook. Why is that?
Well, I
Not that
was
you didn't
part
see
of.
me.
Sorry?
I already know, but tell everyone what's happened.
Oh, well, everyone, I've been banned from Facebook for 30 days,
Oh,
and it's been 11 days now, because of a satirical comment that I made against ISIS.
what was it specifically? It was like a picture or something?
It was a little picture of like an ISIS head,
The little
and
ninja mask and stuff.
he was saying, "Hi, I'm ISIS. Um, I've been working with Assad. I have no reason to tell you this, no motive, but just believe me, yours the CIA, I mean ISIS." And of course,
That's
this was
funny.
based on the fact I thought it was funny, maybe it's not that funny, but it was based on the fact that there were so many reports in the media that ISIS decided to hand Palmyra over to Assad
Oh,
because they struck a deal, and the proof of that was like a document that was leaked by a guy from ISIS, which is basically, just like, hey, guys, I'm here to tell you that we struck a deal with the Alawite regime, which we have sworn to behead, and we believe are heathens. So
yeah, it was
it's
the rumor was Assad was going to let them keep their heavy equipment if they retreat or whatever. And it's like, you're on the verge of victory. He's not letting you go anywhere. And they didn't have their heavy equipment. They
what
got
heavy
pounded.
equipment.
I know. Oh, what, your Toyota truck? What are you talking about? Your Hilux from the CIA?
It's quite ridiculous.
It's
But
stupid, but it's even
even if it
more
were,
banned.
sorry,
You got banned for making fun of ISIS.
yes, I got banned for making fun of ISIS, and it's not the first time that Facebook has banned me for simply saying the words Al Qaeda or ISIS. And I'm a political blogger. I write articles. I'm a journalist. This is my business. This is my life.
Right.
This is basically my passion in life.
You have
And
a
they're trying
fan
to
page
censor
for
that.
that too. Like it's you have officially you have like a fan page as well. So
Yes, I have
that's
both.
and it says all of that. Yeah.
So the thing is that the result of this is, well, it's threefold. First of all, people might make excuses for Facebook and say, well, they have too much stuff going on. They just ban keywords, and they provide a facility for people to um, complain about being banned for something ridiculous. And nobody, like, no matter how many times you complain, nobody checks that. But we all were banned in the same week,
I was banned
you
the
know?
same day as you.
And Lauren Southern was also banned, a few days later. These are not the only people I know in our alternative media circle that have experienced this. I know that people that I work with in the journal that I write for, Global Independent Analytics, were also banned. And not only was I banned on Facebook, my channel on Live Leak was also banned permanently. And this is Live Leak. I
I
mean,
had a list of YouTube videos also banned the same day. I put that out. And they're super neutral. And I had a longer list of demonetized videos. They already quit monetizing many months ago, but I had like older ones. They went back and like shaft, shaft. So it seems like a purge. Can't prove anything, but there's a lot that has been going on in Syria, and I'm like, oh, I can't talk about this everywhere that I need to.
that's the thing. Even if you could, when you come back, you start to think, well, now you have to self-censor. You feel intimidated, like you have to self-censor because
Like one more
if,
strike and you're gone for longer.
well, one more strike and your entire Facebook could go. And that's like 20,000 followers, 30,000 followers gone, and you have to start from scratch. And the thing about it is um, that, this might just be the beginning. they're coming for our Facebooks. They're censoring us slowly. They're using terrorism as an excuse. We have to censor Twitter because we have to prevent beheading videos from being posted. Except it's okay if Times Magazine posts the entire beheading of a Syrian soldier. That's okay. But once a Westerner gets beheaded, now we can use it as an excuse to censor anything that tries to expose what's going on in the world. Live Leak is a place where people post horrifying things. And I was given no reason for my channel being permanently banned. Facebook, I've seen on Facebook Al-Qaeda accounts, extremist jihadi accounts, which we'll talk about soon because this extremist jihadi guy was also one of the White Helmets, which is an NGO.
I do want to talk about them.
He posted a video of him torturing a soldier. But that's okay with Facebook, Only the independent free media is getting crushed.
It's the Zuckerberg algorithm.
It's frustrating because they control or they buy out everything which have become popular platforms. And we can try to create alternatives, but of course we don't have billions of dollars, we don't have enough media, and people, they're just going to be comfortable with what they already have unless you provide them with something immensely better, and you need a lot of resources for that. So basically this is the establishment.
Right here to Facebook, TSU. It's got almost the same format. They don't ban you, and they actually pay you. I got $100 from them for... It's basically, Facebook keeps 100% of the revenue from all the ads. On TSU, 90% goes to the content provider, which is you. So your whole page,
it's a great concept. First time I'm hearing about it.
And you get 90%. And because of something like Facebook makes billions, they're still making plenty of money. And so if you are interested in this, click the link below and join TSU. And it does suck to start over, but if you want to have a backup at least, like if you're afraid of getting banned, you might as well start building something on there.
Here's the thing, though. How many people use it?
It's not as big as Facebook, but it's really large.
And what is the growth? I would want to support things like that, but I just think that we don't get as much ability to promote this stuff. There's not enough advertising. And what's the solution to that? Maybe crowdfunding is the solution.
I
don't know, but it's not promoted enough because this is the first time I've heard about it. So if this is the first time I've heard about it, you can imagine how few people in the world know about this.
I know. That's why I'm saying it now, though. I mean, I'm telling you, there's things like Patreon, Kickstarter censors too. None of my projects would they accept. Indiegogo allowed it, Indiegogo, but you have to basically promote that all yourself because they brought me no traffic. But because I'm in a situation where I have a popular YouTube and Twitter and what have you, I could promote it myself, and that kind of crowdfunding worked for me. But for a lot of people, they might have a great idea, and they go to Indiegogo, and they can only get it out to 30, 50 people, and so it doesn't work very well unless you have 30 very wealthy friends or something. So crowdfunding works if you have some other means of distribution to get enough people to have a big enough crowd to do it. And that works for Patreon as well, so which has been good for me. But so that is a solution for some, or at least part of it. I think TSU is another good one too, though. Like, you go on there and you just tell people who are on Facebook usually have both, and it's like Facebook without all the crap, like a whole bunch of videos of the same thing, or that somebody losing her hair by spinning corn in it or whatever, like the stupid videos on Facebook all day. That's gone. They've got a political section on Sue. They've got, art, music, what have you, but it's segmented, so you can go and read what you want. And I think it's something to at least try and start up and start posting on. Like put all your most prominent stuff, just so you have a page there that someone can go to and see your sort of best of list. And if enough people are doing that, it helps build it up. So that might be a
Well, you know, since MySpace was taken over by Facebook, the internet can move on to something else.
Yeah.
And
MySpace
I'm
was
hoping
huge.
that they do. But as it is now, they have their tentacles in most things. They have their tentacles in YouTube, Facebook, LiveLeak now, and Twitter as well, increasingly so. And we're beginning to feel the heat and the censorship from the thought police. And what's going to be next? If we don't really fight this hard and expose them, what's going to happen? Are they going to start knocking on our doors? Are they going to start arresting us? Because apparently recently some guy got
Those doors have
arrested.
been knocked on.
Yeah, doors have been knocked on. People
There's a
have
guy
been
that made a
arrested.
joke about his girlfriend's dog being Hitler, like just funny because she loved the dog too much. So he's like, "Your dog is Hitler." Or her. And they knocked on his door.
I'm so surprised because they wouldn't gain as much from knocking on the door of someone like that, because obviously they're not a political person, they just thought it was funny. But in this case, in the Facebook's case, it's so obviously clear that they're targeting people who aren't socially engineered enough.
Yeah, you get flack when you're over the target. And I think they're afraid of this. And that's why I say the alternative, or the backup alternative to YouTube is Vimeo. Not as popular, but that has grown a lot. And you can password protect videos and things, and you can replace videos. If you make a small mistake, you can replace it. Unlike YouTube, you have to delete the whole thing and start over. So it's got some advantages on Vimeo. Vimeo and TSU, that's my YouTube and Facebook replacements right there. And they pay you. So,
You know, with LiveLeak, you get a lot of audience because LiveLeak is more specifically war and politics based. So you get that audience there.
I got
And that would
banned
have
from
been my alternative
that's the thing.
because it's a you know, it's
LiveLeak allows gore.
they allow everything.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
they allow gore. And now
Yeah.
I'm permanently banned for no reason. And there's no way you can like complain about it, which is interesting. If they decide like tomorrow that they want to ban all black people or they want to ban all Christian people, nobody can do anything about it. You know, because there's no recourse. There's no one protecting people's rights. They have become, I'm not going to say they've become the government because it is, you know, they can say, oh, it's our business, we can decide who comes and who goes, but then they go and pretend that they're not doing it, that it was an accident, and there's no way you can speak about it, and it's just the luck of the draw. If somebody else was littler than us, you know, they won't be heard. Lauren Southern was very lucky because her story was picked up by a lot of big media like Drudge, and for that reason, Facebook went and apologized to her and returned her channel. Now, they wouldn't have done that for me. Only now, perhaps, because I was able to connect with Lauren Southern, where they might return to me the channel if they get embarrassed enough by it. But that's all there is, you know. They're going to continue to do this, and how are we going to protect people? How are we going to protect each other and make sure that people aren't going to be discriminated against? Are there laws now to help people prevent them from being discriminated against?
Well,
I mean, surely there is, but they're not used for the right reasons, are they?
Hillary Clinton, and it says, "Silly Americans, laws are for poor people." It's perfect.
What?
Laws are for poor people.
Laws are for poor people.
Like, you can say whatever you want on LiveLeak or Facebook too, or YouTube, as long as you are, you know, towing the line. And you can monetize videos about politics if it's state propaganda. But the moment you step out of line, you will not be monetized. You might get banned or banned in certain countries, which basically means everywhere. You know how that goes.
Speaking of
And
monetization,
it makes you so you can't add a song or news clip or anything, because if you do, you know it gets taken down. That's why most of my videos are me talking in my room. I know how to put the news clip and stuff, but I don't, because they'll use that as a pretext to take it down.
interesting thing about my YouTube channel. Um, you know, it's had its run-ins with their law. I haven't monetized it because I don't like ads appearing on my channel, and I didn't want people to try to discredit me by saying that I'm trying to profit off war.
They can put
But I
ads
found it
anyway.
interesting that when I wanted to see about the monetization, when it became like something that I want to do long term, and I've considered it, and I've, thought, maybe it's okay, but I wasn't so sure yet because there's obviously a lot of gore on my channel, and that kind of didn't sit well with me either. But I found that I wasn't able to monetize anyway because
Yeah.
even though I'm a partner and my stuff is in good standing, none of my videos are monetizable. And I went to YouTube and I asked them why they're not monetizable, and they said, well, your channel content was deemed not appropriate for advertising. And I basically went a little further with that, and I asked them, okay, so I run a news channel, and there's a lot of news channels around, but they're okay for monetization. What should I do differently to help me make my videos monetizable?
So that
What am I doing wrong? And I got a very interesting reply. It was, we can't tell you right now. That's it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, we can't tell you right now.
Yeah. I see I took Stefan Molyneux to the woodshed. His video is monetized. My video about that video, nope. They wouldn't let me monetize my own audiobook, like a chapter out of my own book about economics. Totally neutral. Nope. They just don't. There were a lot of YouTubers bigger than both of us that was their living, and just cut that off. A lot of local bloggers and what have you. And
what we need to do is a class action lawsuit.
Yeah. Class action lawsuit, but I think in the meantime, this is free. Go over to Sue and go over to Vimeo.
Yes, yes. I hope
No,
it will, guys. I mean, I will join it, but
if you get some, I don't know, prominent YouTubers, at least for politics, people who are interested in that, and say, look, I'm going to start posting here all the time. Go to this page. And a group of us do it all at once. Then I think that'll work. I think it'll start building Sue up enough.
You mean like a strike?
Yeah, because it'll be just like MySpace. It's just going to get filled with utter crap, and everyone with something worth saying leaves, right? That's what they did. When Fox bought MySpace, the censorship got ramped up so much, and they let moderators go around deleting pages and stuff like that. And so people just said, all right, that's it, and they just went to Facebook. Now that Facebook has grown enough, it's getting censored like hell and used to their bunch of fake accounts and all that. And so it's time to jump ship again. And for my mind, TSU is where it's at.
Eventually, what tends to happen is when these things get big enough, they get bought out. YouTube wasn't run by Google.
Mm-hmm.
And when it wasn't run by Google, obviously it didn't censor that much at all. So
they partnered with the ADL as well. December of 2008, they partnered with the ADL because that's the day War by Deception was removed and my channel was erased. It took thousands of my videos and erased my entire channel and didn't even give me a reason. People are like, why were you erased? I was never told. Just gone.
It's because you're a Native American and they don't like them.
I don't think so. That's what I was saying.
It's because you're X-race. I don't know if that's why not use that against them.
Today, it's like, oh, it's because you're like brown or whatever.
That's what they, that's the only thing that they protect, right? So if they haven't given you a reason to throw that,
gays are like the one they don't protect though. Because I had a Louder with Crowder guy made this really idiotic video about Thanksgiving. I understand he's pissed at leftists and the whole social justice nannies, and me too. But he was just saying factually incorrect things about native. Like, they hadn't even domesticated horses. And, like, horses are from Europe, idiot. They didn't have any horses. Like, real basic stuff. And
I didn't see this.
oh, it's just stupid. But this is what's happened, is you have these leftist social justice morons that are pushing and pissing everyone off so much that you're seeing this alt-right, some of them equally just as dumb and racist, pushing back. And, I mean, they're both stupid. I mean,
As long as they're factually correct, I don't get mad.
I don't care either.
The problem is a lot of them are factually incorrect, and
right. I don't.
That just makes me angry.
Someone's like, blacks commit more crimes than whites. I'm like, yeah, but actually, poor people commit more crimes than anyone.
Than rich people.
Because rich people can get out of it. Like, they might do the same exact thing, but you get a better lawyer and you get community service. The other guy goes to jail. So anyway, but I don't care if it's factually correct, but this was not at all. But the identity politics is so, they're making up identities. Fluid gender, transgender. It's like, it's a made-up thing.
We gotta get on the bandwagon and use it against them.
I'm a superhero. I self-identify as one.
And you know, they made a religion, the Jedi Knights religion or something.
Yeah, well, Jedi is from the Jedi period in Japan, and is actually borrowing from Shinto and Native American faiths.
Oh, I thought it was like a Star Wars thing.
Well, it is, but Star Wars is based on several different religions. There's a long interview with George Lucas and Joseph Campbell about it. So, yeah, if you had the samurai as a lightsaber, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Yoda is that whole Bushido code is the Jedi. But it's borrowing from several faiths. That's why you see in Star Wars the whole, like, machine versus nature. The Death Star is full of droids, and Darth Vader's like half machine. It's all these machines in black and white colors. And then you have like the Ewoks and the Jedi and stuff are all organic and using wood and rope and whatever, and everything's alive and colorful. Everything's really polarized in Star Wars, and that's why it works, because it's just like religion. It's on that basic 6-year-old level of good versus evil, and that's how people grow up and think of politics like that. I'm on the good team. There's no good team. But I want to ask you something serious about Syria. Since you're not allowed to post on Facebook, a lot has been happening. We've had a pretty good exposure on the white helmets. Not if you watch Al Jazeera, though. Ugh.
Al Jazeera?
This outfit is saying how the white helmets became heroes of Syria.
Well, they wanted to give them the Nobel Peace Prize, which I think they deserve, because only war criminals win that prize.
Exactly.
So I'm all for it. The thing about these white helmets, you can go on my channel and see the documentary. The original one is on the Hands Off Syria channel. My channel is called Syrian Girl Partisan. It's one of the latest videos. It's a short documentary made by a guy I know in Sydney who just collated everything that's been happening with the white helmets, and more has surfaced since then.
Well, tell people what it is first, like who are some NGO, or like what is the white helmet?
Yes, the white helmets are an NGO that was created by a ex-military guy in Britain, and they're supposed to be a Syrian NGO, like a Syrian non-government organization, but created by this military guy in Britain and funded by George Soros. And under international law, you know, a non-government organization of a particular country can't be designed by and funded by a foreign nation. It should be accepted by the government of the country that it's in, and the Syrian government obviously never accepted it.
And it's anyway, call it Syrian when there aren't any Syrian citizens in it.
Well, there may very well be, but it certainly wasn't. It's certainly not run by Syrians. But the ones that they found to be, you know, they gave them the clothes and these NGOs. They operate in the Al-Qaeda held areas of Aleppo, and they're supposed to be there saving lives apparently.
And neutral, yeah.
And on their site, they say they are very neutral, and they are.
They don't carry weapons.
They don't carry weapons. They're fiercely neutral, and they don't accept money from governments.
Yeah, because it's NGO.
Yeah.
Which
And
means you
yet,
get it from intelligence agencies.
and yeah, well, and yet in the video that if you go on my channel you'll see, they have been filmed carrying guns, attending pro-Al-Qaeda rallies, which cuts into the whole neutrality thing, cheering with Al-Qaeda, and they have accepted millions and millions of dollars from the US government and the British government and the German government. So I think that the US government gave them $23 million. These people who have been attending Al-Qaeda rallies have been and carrying guns openly have been getting millions from the US taxpayers' dollars, while Americans, some of which, are living on the street.
How can it be a non-government organization and it's getting tens of $millions from a foreign government?
Fiercely independent, doesn't take money from governments. But more recently, and in this video you'll see that they were present at executions. They were present at some Al-Qaeda executions. Just as they finished executing the guy, they went and they collected the body.
They're just standing there waiting for the execution to happen.
And as soon as that video came out, a few days later, a lot more happened. They were filmed attending a second pro-Al-Qaeda rally, and they were filmed taking part in the torture and execution of Syrian soldiers. 2 members of the White Helmets were filmed taking part in the torture, not just collecting the bodies, but no, taking part in it. And no answer, nothing from the mainstream media. I had an argument with this guy called Scott Lucas, who's a politics professor who runs a website called EA World.
I got banned.
I'm sorry?
I was banned.
You were banned from him?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I had a long argument with him, which you can see on my Twitter, where basically he whitewashed every single event that happened. And, he would say, well, no context was ever provided for their carrying guns. And I'm like, yeah, no context was ever provided. And he expects that we should provide context and explanation for why the White Helmets are behaving this way.
Here's my
Not
explanation.
that the White Helmets should do so.
They're not supposed to have weapons, and they have weapons.
Yeah, and the fact that, their members took part in the torture and execution of a Syrian soldier, we have to prove that. The burden of proof is on us, even though they're filmed there, but they don't have to, they're not expected to make these to have a response or anything to this.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It being on film is proof that it happened.
Yes, but unfortunately the story is not getting picked up by big platforms.
Well,
that's
you know why. I mean, these are the same platforms that for the entire period have been saying Assad is an evil dictator and it's the regime and he had to go and these are the moderate rebels and blah, blah, blah.
I can understand.
They didn't say anything for the first 10 years of his presidency, though. From 2000 to 2010,
he was great.
Syria enjoys the most religious freedom of any Arab country, the most women's suffrage, etc., of any country in that area.
Well, in 2009, the French president invited him and his wife to have a cup of tea. So,
yeah. But more than that, I mean, there was a little bit of, talk from the neocons in 2003 saying, oh, they moved weapons of mass destruction that Iraq didn't have into Syria. Oh, yeah, that's what you're going to do. You've got these weapons. You're being attacked. Instead of using them to fight your enemy, you're going to ship them off to your neighbor for no reason, just to make the U.S. look bad.
I find it really offensive that they think that we needed Iraq's weapons of mass destruction, that we couldn't make them ourselves.
They didn't have any anyway. And,
why would we need their non-existent weapons? We've had a weapons program.
Why would any country just give their weapons away to another one when they're being attacked?
Yeah, here, we're not even allies, but take our weapons.
We're getting attacked for these things by the United States and half the world. Do you want them? No.
Okay, I'll just add them to the pile.
Yeah, just give them a pretext to invade us too. No.
It costed me a few $1 billion, but...
It was a really sad
I
attempt
thought
by
you'd have.
Judith Miller to explain why there weren't any WMDs there. And of course, they knew there weren't any there the whole time. But we've got the DIA admitting back in 2012 that our own intelligence agencies were fostering a Salafist principality in order to change governments in Syria. We've got before that the Oded Yanan plan, which spells out exactly what happened in Iraq. But the main target was for getting rid of Iraq was so that Syria could be next. We've got a senator from Virginia, Richard Black, coming out and talking about Wesley Clark and Paul Wolfowitz's conversation about countries they want to invade. This is different than the 7 countries. That's a different time. And talking about going to Syria and how his interpreter even said, yeah, I was at the original demonstrations where the snipings were. We're there, and they weren't protesting Assad or the government. They're just having a demonstration about reform. And suddenly, all these Al-Qaeda people are there with Al-Qaeda flags and Kalashnikovs and stuff, and Syria doesn't have the right to bear arms. Where the hell are they getting these professional automatic weapons from? Well, they came from Libya, and we know that because of Hillary's leaked emails. Well, we knew it before that, but now, that's
And now
Dawn's
you have
Secretary
proof.
of State, the top person of the State Department, is saying, yeah, we're sending caches of weapons from Libya to Syria to fight Assad. It's all admitted, and still nothing gets picked up. So the fact that the white helmets are not really, none of these
No,
NGOs.
I can understand that the mainstream media wouldn't touch it, but I'm talking about the alternative media. I'm talking about, RT even. They will mention the white helmets, but there's not this big push. And I find that when the mainstream media attacks something, they all do it across the board, they all repeat themselves, and they all promote it at the same time. It's like they have a thunderclap, all at once they attack. But there's no such coordination when it comes to all the alternative media. And so I don't think even like something like RT has done enough to bring light to the white helmets situation.
I brought it up on Press TV like 4 days ago, and I wrote about the white helmets in my book from whenever I wrote Separation Business and State. I think it was 2 years ago or whatever. 2013, I think I finished it. I mentioned the white helmets in there, but just like a little bit because I didn't have all the information we had now. But we see these NGO groups in Ukraine as well and in Syria that are not NGOs. It's just a way of laundering money around. The National Endowment for Democracy, for example.
All those millions of dollars are going to Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
They're not going to the NGO. They're not going to buy white helmets.
They're not going to help, with
Where did
medical
the money
needs
go
or something
to?
like that.
What did they use it for?
Yeah.
Where did it go? There's no
There's
explanation of
billions
that.
missing out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Billions under the Paul Bremer plan. Like, people were kicking around soccer balls of $100 bills. And we're going to rebuild, all the stuff we destroyed. And for years, parts of Iraq didn't have electricity or running water for years after the war was over. Where did the damn money go? Dirt roads in Afghanistan. Where did it go? We're going to make schools for women, and none of that happened. We're blowing up hospitals. That's what we're doing. No war crimes for that.
Well, I think Switzerland has confiscated billions of Syria's money right now. So
they've frozen assets.
yeah.
And
so that's Syria's billions. That's Syria's future. And
what was our
somehow it's justified?
Sanction Iran?
Yeah, exactly.
They want to sanction Iran. Sanction Saudi Arabia. They're your partners in crime in 9/11. They're beheading people, and so the story's wearing thin, though. I think any thinking adult, you've got all these evidence, because there are, General Michael Flynn came out and talked about it. We've got state senators talking about it. Some people in mass media have tiptoed into it. You've got former congressmen like Ron Paul who are talking about it. They flat out spelled it out on Syria before. So there are some people in government.
But if you remember back in the day, in 2013, when the sorry, brain suddenly frozen. When that insurgent ate the soldier's heart,
It's okay.
that
It's
went
because I'm
everywhere.
handsome and that happens to people.
It's been happening to me more and more frequently. Maybe it's Alzheimer's.
Oh, you're
No,
talking about the
the
organ
heart
eating.
eater.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I saw that and I translated it, it became, my video went viral, had 500,000 views. That was the translated version. The original had 1 million views. And I think because of how viral it went, they were forced to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had many talk show hosts, talking about it and stuff. There's not that much
That
attention to
story,
Syria anymore.
I
But
believe, dovetailed with the story of John McCain meeting with al-Nusra. And you had that famous picture of John McCain meeting with these idiots. And I think he met with Al-Asham and what have you. The guy here in Japan, Michael Kyle, broke that story and traced the URLs back and everything else. He's in Ireland now, which was really cool, because I had just seen him and talked about it, and then there it was, and I had talked to you right before your story, and I saw them both blow up, boom, and I had him on ANC later to talk about it, but you've got U.S. senators visiting with these idiots, photographs with them and everything, and we're financing terrorists again.
speaking of which, Ahrar al-Sham just paid a visit to lobby U.S. congressmen. And Ahrar al-Sham is an Al-Qaeda linked group. It was created by al-Suri, who worked with Zawahiri, I think. And these guys are still fighting alongside Al-Qaeda. And what interestingly happened recently, the Russians put in a document to the United Nations requesting that they be added to the terror list, and the US rejected it. So they wanted to keep them as a protected group under the ceasefire, not as one of the groups that are okay to attack, which is ISIS and Al-Qaeda, otherwise known as al-Nusra, in Syria.
It's something else, because that's the group that got Mohammed Zammar out of prison in a prisoner swap. Zammar was the financier for Mohammed Atta and his cell, who were 9/11 hijackers. That you can't get more Al-Qaeda than that.
Well,
And
the
they got all the
CFR,
first Al-Qaeda people out of jails in Libya.
the Council of Foreign Relations called them Al-Qaeda worth befriending. And, it's quite blatant. And now these guys, they're meeting with U.S. congressmen trying to lobby in the United States.
Why not?
The funny thing is that, there was a story recently in McClatchy, the U.S. government meets with Al-Qaeda linked group. That was the headline. It's not even hidden. And what happened days after the U.S. rejected putting these guys on the terror list is that they went into a city with Jabhat al-Nusra, so them and Al-Qaeda together raided the city and killed a bunch of civilians, and they were photoed doing it. They were photoed standing on the corpses of women. And they didn't deny that they killed women. They killed them in their own homes. They claimed that the women were armed. But if some guy comes into my house...
Why wouldn't you be armed in Syria?
Why wouldn't you be armed? But they weren't armed. You could see there's no guns around their corpses. You could see that. So if you go on my channel right now, you'll be able to see the evidence of that. And, RT journalists went in and spoke to the State Department guy, Kirby, and asked him, so you didn't want these guys on the terror list. What do you say now that they're killing women and children, killing women and kidnapping kids because of, they're not the right kind of Islam?
Not the kind of Islam.
Yeah. So what do you say about this? They're doing it alongside Al-Qaeda. Not that they haven't been obviously fighting alongside Al-Qaeda the whole time. And he's like, yeah, we always tell them to not fight alongside Al-Qaeda. And we're on record for asking them not to fight alongside Al-Qaeda. And I don't know about that particular incident.
It's bad PR, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah, guys, please, you're making us look bad. And apparently that's enough. Just telling them that it's bad that they fight alongside Al-Qaeda, that advocates them of, what they're doing, which is treason under the anti-terrorism laws, right?
They
So
let MEK off the State Department's list. So what happened was they were designated as terrorists, and like their expiration date, with the time to renew came up, the State Department didn't do it. Now MEK is absolutely a terrorist group, but they were out there assassinating Iranian scientists and stuff for the behalf of Mossad, and that's within U.S. interests and policies, since they do everything Israel wants. They're killing civilian scientists. That's definitely an act of terrorism. They've blown up cars and the things that MEK does, Mujahideen al-Khalq, and they let it expire, so they're no longer considered part of the State Department's terrorist watch list, and that was on Hillary Clinton's watch.
it's one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, which, a big example of which is the PKK, which
Yeah,
the US considers a terrorist organization, even though they are intrinsically tied to the YPG, which the US is arming. So it's complete, blatant hypocrisy. They pick and choose what they designate as terrorists. And an Al-Qaeda linked group, which was created by Zawahiri, which has members that they got out of prison that did 9/11,
there's a bagman from Muhammad Ali.
supposedly, according to the official story, they did 9/11.
Well,
And
yeah. I mean,
yeah.
not independently, but they are still 9/11 hijackers and bagmen. So
So, but that's okay. Like, they're invited to the White House.
yeah,
That's fine. But if you post a joke about ISIS, you're going to the gulag.
yeah, you're getting banned. Minimal. It's amazing, and they don't even try and hide it anymore. And look at what's happened to Libya. And look what's happened to Syria. Like, how can they sit there with a straight face and still say, I mean, I know even people like on our side or whatever, who say, well, we all know Assad's a bad guy, but, I'm like, what are you talking about? What was he doing that was so oppressive before all this violence started? You had all these different religious groups living together, They had complete freedom of religion. There wasn't sectarian violence. His father was fighting with the Muslim Brotherhood, sure, and fighting with the Israelis before that. His father took 30% of the Golan Heights back in the Yom Kippur War. And people are mad. I actually had people in the beginning of this saying, well, Assad should take all the Golan Heights back, or I'm just not going to trust them. How
Well,
would
we're
you like
trying
to do
to
that?
do that.
Want to go to war with Israel for real? Like, I mean, come on.
Like, the thing is, though, that Syria's official policy is that they're not letting go of the Golan Heights. And in 2009, they tried to do a peace process, and Syria said, well, if you're not giving us back the Golan Heights, you can get stuffed. And basically, like, the whole accusation that Assad is secretly working with Israel, it's a miracle that the Syrian government has been able to keep Israel at bay for as many decades as it has, because Israel always has designs to invade and occupy.
People
They've been
forget the
doing it to
Syrian
Lebanon,
military.
and there's nothing that would stop them from doing it to Syria.
The Syrian military was in Lebanon until the end of 2005, like December until about
And the
2006.
minute they left, Israel invaded.
Exactly. And that was set up by the Rafik Hariri murder, which was blamed on Syrians, and it turned out they didn't do it. Their second plan was to blame it on a Palestinian. Turned out he couldn't have done it either, and they had no third excuse. Just big mystery, because it didn't matter, because by the time all that was flushed out, blaming it on the Syrians was used as a pretext to get the Syrian army out of Lebanon. Then Israel invades, and the Lebanese military never lifted a finger, because they had already arranged that. Hezbollah fought them by themselves.
What kind of an army doesn't fight an invasion?
Right. You got a foreign country blowing up a total of 1,000 people in Beirut. 1,000 people. And that's where they screwed up, because they killed the Christians. And then suddenly the PR went whoop and turned around. And also Hezbollah was able to kill about 100 Israeli soldiers, and they quit. You had all the Jewish mothers out there, like, because Israel cannot put its
Because
own.
they killed them in a very short period of time as well.
Oh yeah,
And
they got them good.
blew
And
up the tanks.
they're not used to fighting people who can do more than throw rocks. And it's a compulsory army, so it's not very professional because everyone has to be in the military. So it's full of jabronis. Other than big pants and boots, there's nothing behind it. They're wimps. And so there's a lot of soft targets, and they go in and get killed. That's what happens when you have a compulsory army. And they quit. Lebanon won that war, but Hezbollah won that war. And so Plan B was, okay, because Syria was still, even though officially the military moved out of the country, there were a whole bunch of Syrians fighting alongside Hezbollah against the Israelis when they invaded, because they know they're next. So they said, we're going to have to break up Syria and cut off Iran's support to Hezbollah. And that has been why we're there, which Hillary Clinton admits in her emails. She said, how we're going to get in there, get rid of Assad, because that's what's best for Israel. The head of the State Department of the United States of America is talking about invading another country because that's what a foreign country wants us to do. Yep. Flat out admits.
It's so blatant. And I was talking recently to someone who is in the Syrian opposition, which means maybe they're not a high-ranking member, but someone who buys into the whole democracy crap and we need democracy everywhere. Oh, yeah. The thing is, when you said earlier, Assad's a bad guy, etc., etc.
He was elected.
He's definitely not perfect. He's definitely not, art thou holy. There was a lot of problems in Syria. There was a lot of corruption in Syria.
Government.
And that wasn't stamped down. And when you have unfairness and corruption, I'm talking money stuff.
Yeah.
That people get pissed off.
Sure.
Yeah. But that doesn't at all compare to, he was people liked him. People saw him as someone who's going to change things. But there's limitations to how much you can change, because obviously if you try to stamp down on the wrong corrupt guy, he's going to get you assassinated. There's politics is a dangerous game.
You'll always have a faction that doesn't like you. There's always the other political party that doesn't like who you are. And
if you go in strong and you're okay, anyone who's corrupt is just going to get the shaft now, you're going to get assassinated. So the thing is, the whole, I know Assad's a bad guy and everything, okay, but can you compare that to the people who destroy entire nations, like Hillary Clinton? Or like Obama? No, you can't compare that. Because when's the last time that Syria, invaded and destroyed?
Did they put sanctions on Iraq and starve to death 500,000 kids?
No, they didn't.
No.
And people say, oh, well, they invaded Lebanon. Actually, no. The Lebanese government requested the presence of the Syrian military. It was an invitation. And that is different to an invasion. In spite of people trying to compare what the Russian military is doing in Syria now.
They were invited by the government.
They were invited by the legitimate government.
Fair campaign.
Yeah, so...
You're allowed to have allies. They're fighting this, insurgency backed by a bunch of foreign intelligence agencies. And they have the Russians. And the Russians gave the Americans a plan the other day to say, look, we want to bomb these al-Qaeda groups. And America said no. All ISIS has to do is take this hat off and put this hat on and say, now you can't bomb me.
Al-Qaeda is not even mentioned anymore in the media.
It's true.
It's all ISIS. Al-Qaeda is now the moderates because they're moderate compared to ISIS, right? Because that's what is moderate? It's all relative. What does that even mean? It doesn't mean secular. That's certainly not what it means. So it seems like the U.S. government is okay with meeting with Al-Qaeda because they're okay now. We've got something worse to hate, which is ISIS. And that's what the media is pushing. And I find it strange. Maybe you can gauge, because I don't live in the States. And the thing is, I think that the U.S. population is basically the biggest hope, because they have the most potential to instigate change, more so than any other population. And also, even though they've had information so controlled by the government and the media, in spite of, at the same time, pushing out the idea that they're free, but then information is controlled. They're they're like sponges. They're very open to get the information that they've been starved for all
They
these
did
years.
reject the initial plan to invade Syria, if you remember. People were calling 1,000 to 1
Exactly.
air campaign. And
And now there's U.S. troops on Syrian soil, just like last month. And nobody was opposed to it.
But it was the Iraq War was so bad and stupid that it's very hard to repeat that. So they've had to go back to the old model of the 80s where they used proxy forces, right? Which is what's happening now. But that's starting to get stale because, I mean, people are looking at Turkey and Saudi Arabia, Israel, some of our allies here. Turkey openly with the illegal oil trades, and the Saudis are financing these jihadi groups. I think a lot of Americans do know that. Most people in any country, unless you're being attacked, are non-political. They're not one way or the other. They just don't give a damn. But of those that are political, there's still a big anti-war movement. And there's still groups that get it on something. Like almost everyone opposes Iraq War now. But what bothers me is you'll have some people who get it right in Iraq. Maybe they even get it right on Palestine. Like they understand it's under occupation.
But they get it wrong with Syria.
They're like barrel bombs and chemical. They just totally bought the mass everything.
Because they read left-wing magazines.
Exactly.
And the left-wing magazines, they feed them bullshit. And they only tell them the truth after it's too late. So when it comes to Gaddafi, all the left-wing magazines, at least here in Australia, they were like, Gaddafi, he's a sellout anyway, and he must be stopped. This is not a fight against someone who's anti-imperialist because Gaddafi sold out, blah 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 blah. The rebels are great. The revolution, any revolution against the government, no matter what it's fighting for, is okay.
Yeah.
Even if it's Al Qaeda, that's fine. It's a revolution,
too,
and revolutions are what left-wing people are all about, right?
Yeah.
So there is
in the U.S. especially though, because in America our story is the founding fathers rebelling against the British, the English, and so every rebellion story must be like that. It's got to be like Star Wars, the rebels versus the evil empire. And they can't see. I always bring up the Iran-Contra affair because you had the Contras, and even before that, the El Salvadorian death squads and stuff, some of whom were moved over to Iraq. They were cutting off hands and heads and killing children and child solid, all of it, And they were being backed covertly by the CIA the whole time. And President Reagan publicly denounced them and privately was supporting them the whole time. And that's what's happening in Syria. Publicly, we're against ISIS. Privately, we're egging them on and supporting them through proxies. They have intermediaries.
Saudi Arabia.
They did Iran-Contra, too. Israel was the middleman in that whole thing, getting spare parts to Iran and so forth. A certain faction within Iran that after the 79 revolution, they still had a holdover, blah, blah, blah. ISIS is Iran-Contra 2.0. And it's the same guys. Like Wolfowitz was the director of policy and planning in the State Department at the time in Iran-Contra, and then he was undersecretary of Defense for Policy with Pearl and those assholes during Iraq. These same guys, Abrams and that were the core. Wolfowitz and Ladine met with Gorbanifard in Iran-Contra. They're the same people who were setting up all this bullshit with Iraq and Syria. Same people. And if Hillary Clinton gets elected, she's bringing all the neocons back in, the Kagans, all of them. And, I mean, they're all heavy against Trump.
I mean, she's a monster.
She's a monster.
She cackles like a witch. She's the evil.
She looks like a witch from a movie.
It's not even. It's on her face. It's that might seem shallow, okay, but in her case, it's hard to hide how evil she is. There's nothing like you look at Ron Paul. You can see the kindness in that man's face. You can see the humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are good at hiding it, like Obama. He seems human, but Clinton does not appear human at all.
Like,
So,
Obama's more of a yes man. Clinton's all about it. She actually agrees with it. She's been in careers her whole life, defending rapists,
yes.
defending starving children to death, killing millions. She was for every single intervention in war of her lifetime. I mean, from Kosovo to Ukraine, she supported it all. All of it.
Read her emails.
She wants to go to war with Iran. She wants to have a war with Iran.
A vote for Clinton is a vote for war with Iran.
Yeah.
Do the left wing that promote her know this?
No, because Trump is Hitler. That's
Trump is Hitler.
Yeah. Because Trump said he wanted to work with Putin in Ukraine. And my favorite moment, and I'm not a Trump fan or anything, but my favorite moment was in the debate where he basically took Jeb Bush and shoved him in the locker and shut the door. Because Jeb was saying the trite thing, same thing Hillary says, we have to work with the moderate rebels to defeat Assad and then ISIS. And Trump spun around and was like, you're stupid. That's so stupid. You're fighting a war on two fronts. And I hear this, these kind of stupid policies, that's going to have us in the Middle East another 15 years. You have to work with the government and defeat ISIS. ISIS is the enemy. Stop fighting a war on two fronts. And I was like, wow, the guy who doesn't know jack shit about politics, because he doesn't. Like he was talking about TPP, they asked him a question about it, and he just got this long-winded answer about China. And Rand Paul had to say, China's not in TPP. Like, he doesn't know much. But you don't have to know much to see how freaking stupid it is to say, we're fighting ISIS, and so is the Syrian government, and we're fighting the Syrian government, too, at the same time, with these moderate rebels that we can't define or name or anything. Like, bullshit. You're fighting the Syrian government with proxies, and you can't acknowledge this because they're so out of control and cutting heads off of journalists and all that. So now you're like, oh, we're with the FSA or something. And it's the same
And every
people.
bad thing that happens it was done either by ISIS or Nusra, which is Al-Qaeda. They're just the scapegoats. That's why they call them terrorists. They needed a scapegoat for all the war crimes. Now, this Ahrar al-Sham war crime where they were killing women and children,
Or the FSA.
how are they going to scapegoat that? I don't know.
Before ISIS was on the map, the Free Syrian Army, the FSA was stabbing people, killing babies, cutting heads off, grilling people, torturing. All that was done by the FSA for years. I know you reported a lot of it. And then ISIS comes and does the same thing. ISIS had that theatrical moment of the beheadings and the jumpsuits and stuff, which, catapulted them into, look, we're so evil. And that took all the heat off the FSA, but the FSA had been engaging in that behavior
Doing
the whole
it
time.
for years, and we knew about it.
Years, and a lot of people knew about it. And Obama's non-lethal aid was the Toyota Hilux. And now you look at ISIS, we gave it to the FSA. But you look at ISIS, and there are caravans of hundreds of these trucks, all the same color, brand new paint, everything. That was the non-lethal aid, and they slap an artillery piece in there. And the Toyota Hilux had been used before in the Toyota wars between Chad and Libya. It's very effective.
And Libya has a lot of them because they're very easy to move around cities, and you can mount machine guns and anti-aircraft weapons on top of them. So go Hilux, no?
Yeah, Hilux, I don't know, whatever. And I guess they need a Japanese brand because they can't really have an American truck.
But I was wondering, do the American people know that the U.S. government is meeting with people like Ahrar al-Sham, giving millions of dollars to Al-Qaeda, working with the rebels? Do they know that the rebels work with Al-Qaeda? Do they know this?
I think the only names they know are ISIS and maybe generically the rebels or something. I don't think they even know the names. Maybe al-Nusra. Of course, they call them al-Nusra most of the time.
Well, I know that Trump recently said that Hillary Clinton caused the rise of ISIS, right?
Sure.
But wouldn't it help his campaign if he were to educate people about the fact that the current government is giving millions of dollars to Al-Qaeda and inviting them to the White House? Would not, it would be good because
maybe
there's no amount of, I could
but
scream all day and nobody will know, you know? It's not
he's the
going to get
guy.
through.
It's sad that we gotta rely on someone like Donald Trump, but maybe he'll bring it up in the debates. Like, he's gonna be able to trash Hillary and everything. Because, okay, Trump flip-flops a lot. Hillary flip-flops even more. I mean, she's got nothing on him. She has nothing. Like, she's the epitome of evil. Everything she's ever done has been a disaster. He's a billionaire. You know, like, this woman. I can't even, like, I don't even know where to start with both the Clintons. They're so bad. From Mark
In the rapist
Foster.
and the defender of rapists.
Yeah, she is. And
But
laughing
did you
about,
see that Bill Clinton was recently accused of rape as well?
well, I don't know if he was raping, but he was having sex with underage girls on those flights with Epstein back to the Caribbean and back.
No, there was a woman that said that he raped her, and she was someone who like hung out with the Democrats. She was one of the people that
Oh, the lady
promotes.
who he bit her lip real hard, and
Yes,
yeah, I remember that from back in the day. Yeah.
now it's come back to haunt them.
Well, I mean, that's unfortunately just a little blip on the radar for their sexual escapades. My family relative was Hillary Clinton's bodyguard, and trust me, they're
Is
sick.
it free? Yeah.
He passed away, so I can say this now. But I didn't know what his job was or anything. I knew he was in the SS, but Secret Service. I didn't know exactly what he did until his mother died, and we had a long U-Haul trip to New York City to get her stuff, and boy, I learned a lot about the Clintons.
I think a lot of these sociopathic people are sexual deviants. If you remember, if you've read the Matthew Van Dyke leaks.
Hey, Dennis Hastert. Dennis Hastert's going to jail. He just got sentenced, what, I think 15 months? Not that much. But the 15 months in jail for, this is a former Speaker of the House who replaced a Speaker of the House who was cheating on his wife, who replaced another Speaker of the House who was cheating on his wife. But Dennis Hastert was molesting little boys when he was a wrestling coach. And one of these boys he was paying off to stay quiet, and he's moving like just below 10,000, like 9,990, whatever, every time. And what the court got him on was the money laundering part of, because the statute of limitations had run out or whatever. And so they caught him moving money to this guy, and the explanation was he's paying him off for all the times he raped this kid and molested him. He had been doing that. And then my old boss, Sybil Edmonds, really was like, oh, trust me, he kept doing that. He was doing it while he was Speaker of the House. He had a townhouse outside of Chicago for his sexual escapades. And his chief of staff, his nickname is Scotty, he was doing it with them, bringing boys there. It's utterly disgusting. And this is the thing. When you get someone that has that much blackmail on them, fucking little kids, you know, fucking little boys, ugh.
It's very easy to control that
That's
person.
the kind of person they elevate to become Speaker of the House. And he had 3 in a row. Because Newt Gingrich was fooling around on his wife who was dying of cancer. Right? And
It's
then,
like
what was his
the royal family and the Jimmy Scable thing that
Rosenthal,
happened.
whatever. He was cheating.
And the president of, the prime minister of the United Kingdom, recently it came out that he raped a pig. So,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm sorry.
You gotta be desperate.
It's terrible.
But we've
You
had
can look it up.
several
I'm sure the
speakers-
United States doesn't hear about it, but it's not just,
But the Turks
No.
and the Israelis both knew about Hastert's escapades. So you've got foreign governments blackmailing them. And if
Oh.
Hillary using her BlackBerry openly in China and all these other states and then getting all her personal emails, and from what I know about her, from my relative being her bodyguard, if 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of percent of that got out, she is done. They have massive leverage on that lady, and that's why she just sells out to whoever. She cannot become president. It will be the end of the United States.